grew up with this. He said, and what's going on with him has been going on long before him.
It literally feels like a lifetime ago, but I still remember the shit like it was just yesterday. Though walked in, yellow jumpsuit, old boot, crack jokes since you got inside the booth. Told you, Mike Smoke with the friends. Some of them I put on, but they just left. They said they was riding to
50
the
Cent's
death.
Netflix documentary on Sean Diddy Combs just dropped, and people instantly felt something was off. Major chunks of the story were straight up missing, especially anything deep about Diddy's mom, Janice Combs, and what quietly got cut from the final edit. What resurfaced online later was way darker than anyone expected, and those deleted clips hinted that Janice wasn't just a background figure watching it all happen. Some viewers brushed it off saying, "We already knew this stuff," and yeah, on the surface, that's true. The documentary barely scratched the surface and skipped the real heavy details. It played it safe, avoiding the deeper connections and leaving out major names like Jay-Z and Beyoncé, even though their names keep popping up when...
Love you too. Mom, freshly dipped though. I was trying to show the truth. Yeah, my mom's is single. Mom's is single. I ain't gonna hate on my mom. She's single. My mom's took.
But here's what really had people talking. Janice Combs only got about 5 minutes of screen time, 5 minutes total. This is the woman who raised him from day one, shaped his mindset, and stayed close through everything. That alone made people start asking real questions. Why was her role so small, and what details ended up on the cutting room floor? That missing piece is exactly where this story gets uncomfortable. And that's what we're breaking down today. Because the parts that never made it into the documentary tell the real story. We're talking deleted scenes, resurfaced clips, and explosive testimony that Netflix clearly didn't want front and center. By the time this video wraps, you'll understand exactly why so many people believe Janice Combs knew what was going on behind the scenes, and yes, everything.
About one time doing a dating show with her. Yeah, she's so picky. She's so picky, I don't stand. But yeah, that'd be the funniest show in the world.
It will be. That shit will be.
I don't even want to get started with you doing that. We're not doing that, cause But yeah, my mom's single. Yeah, for real.
You guys don't need to worry about me getting revenge from Diddy. I've got 3 moves.
There are a lot of great and powerful interviews in this, but where are A-list celebrities? Where are people in his orbit that remain silent? Like, they've never really even spoken out against the allegations or anything that's going on. Are people just concerned about their careers? Are they afraid to speak out? Why is... Because I remember Harvey Weinstein, right away, everyone was like piling on and talking. Yeah. Why is everyone afraid to say anything about Diddy?
It's a part of the hip hop culture. Like, they think that they are telling something, or just mind your business type of thing. Like, so if there's no, other than that, you would look, if I wasn't saying the things that you've heard me say, there would be nothing being said at all. So it'd just be, you would assume that the culture is for those behaviors.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs moved like someone untouchable. Money stacked high, power on lock, and connections everywhere kept him floating above consequences, but that shield is cracking fast now. Word on the street says the fallout doesn't stop with the first documentary because there's already heavy talk about a second part packed with footage and stories that were too risky to air the first time. And if the rumor mill is right, 50 Cent might be ready to pull the curtain back on way more famous names than anyone expected. This time, the focus is on every big celebrity rumored to pop up in Part 2 and what kind of secrets might finally see daylight. One of the biggest names being whispered about is Snoop Dogg.
Get pregnant. Not naturally, not normally. What I do know is this. When Beyonce got on that stage with that fake baby bump,
Oh, yeah.
it was lined up with the same timing of where Kathy White would have been in her second trimester. And when we all watched her get on TV with that fake pregnancy belly that folded over,
Yep.
she sat down. The timeline of when she delivered Blue Ivy lines up almost perfect with the timeline of when Kathy White would have delivered.
Wow.
We all know that Blue Ivy came from a surrogate. They shut that hospital down like a president had just been. And parents who had just had children themselves weren't even allowed to see their own kids for 24 hours.
They bounced my family off the 6th floor and from the waiting room and made them go downstairs and get her.
There's a lot of us that are coming together to deal with this issue. This is not by any means just us.
Because of the security that was locking that whole thing down.
$1.3 million is alleged that Beyonce and Jay-Z, the Carters, paid this hospital to have the right to have their baby there in complete secrecy and privacy.
Okay, so the surrogate was carried out and no one heard her speak a word.
Do we know if the surrogate was alive?
They typically turned some of the cameras off so that there was no pictures that were being taken.
Whoa. Snoop and Diddy go way back. Same studios, same parties, same elite circles, and that bond was never hidden from the public. But here's where it gets sticky. When old accusations tied to Snoop resurfaced through public claims, nothing really happened. No deep investigations, no real pushback, no consequences at all. Everything just kept moving like business as usual, and that silence is exactly why people are now asking questions that were ignored for years. According to allegations made by Ali Carter, Snoop Dogg was already being named as far back as 2020 in connection with serious wrongdoing.
That Snoop Dogg, not again, mentioned him in December of 2020, but everybody beat the hell out of me. Screw you, that can't be true. What the hell do I know, right? And then recently it just came out again that Snoop Dogg got accused of actually trafficking children. And what did everybody do? Ooh, Snoop Dogg is at the halftime. I'm going to the halftime. But we canceled Dr. Seuss. And Jemima. And nobody mad. Nobody. Super Bowl habits. They were dripping down from the letters. The LVI. I know, but then that's fine. That's fine. Let's go to the game. Make some hot wings. It's fine. It'll pass. It'll pass, right? It's a phase. It's just a phase. But oh no, tell somebody that plastic straws are coming back and throw a fit.
Back then, her claims didn't spark real discussion. They sparked attacks. She was dragged, dismissed, and treated like noise instead of being taken seriously. That contrast raised major eyebrows. Other public figures have been removed from platforms or deals for way less. Yet Snoop stayed untouched. Critics say that kind of protection doesn't just come from being clean, it comes from power, reach, and knowing the right people. Then you've got Gene Deal, who added more tension by claiming the notorious B.I.G. became deeply suspicious of Snoop before his death. According to him, Biggie didn't trust Snoop at all, and that shift didn't come out of nowhere.
Hey, dog, what about the Lakers?
We do agree on.
Yeah.
We don't like Boston, man. That's the one thing about us, man. We don't like Boston, man.
That's what we gonna go to the game and bring this thing on home. You know, we the good luck charm.
Yes, sir. Connect the dots.
That's right. We see y'all. Yeah, that's right. Game 7. That's what's up.
Another loud absence from the documentary is Kevin Hart. Kevin was once part of Diddy's inner circle, showing up at his camps and exclusive events, and even openly admitting he was around Diddy heavy during those years, which has people wondering why his name hasn't been addressed yet.
Allie Carter told us about Diddy. Allie Carter has spoke out so much throughout the years and told us exactly how all of this is connected. The very first time she spoke out, she spoke about there being underground tunnels where she was moved through. And there have been a lot of rumors about Diddy allegedly having these underground tunnels that run to the Playboy Mansion. And the Playboy Mansion does have underground tunnels. Here is the blueprint of the Playboy Mansion that they made showing the underground tunnels underneath the mansion. And I blew this up a little bit more for you guys because back in the day, it actually led to celebrities' houses. Allie Carter has just made an affidavit of truth that she turned over to the feds against Diddy and other celebrities about how she was allegedly abused at a Playboy Mansion party. As you can see, here's Diddy's name here and others such as Birdman, Denzel Washington, and Young Jock. In this document, she speaks about how she was a party favor and how other children were there as party favors as well, and how they were set on a table and had to wait for people to come and choose them. She explained how once these people were done with what they were doing, and I have to watch what I say, but you guys get what I'm saying, they would be placed back on the table for someone else to choose them. She explains how these parties turned into a whole frenzy once the DJ started music and turned on the flashing lights. And then she explains how there was things at this party called body cakes, and it means that these would be on the table and people would put food on them and then they would eat off them. Y'all, I just seen a footage of Diddy doing this at a white party that he held back in the 2000s. She explains in this affidavit that they would bring in animals like donkeys and burros, and they had to have physical relationships with them as these people watched, and her and another girl ended up throwing up and they rubbed their faces in it as punishment.
He even set the whole event on a weekday on purpose, almost like he wanted people to dip early. The crowd laughed it off, but a lot of viewers felt those jokes weren't just jokes. They sounded like low-key warnings hiding in plain sight. He never directly accused Sean Diddy Combs of anything, but the way he moved made it seem like he knew way more.
He alleges that he was fired for reporting sexual harassment while on tour with Smith.
Earlier this year, I was hired to be a performer on a major tour with somebody who is huge in the industry. Unfortunately, some things happened, and I can't get into the details of exactly what that was.
For weeks after the lawsuit dropped, there was absolute silence from Will Smith. No statement, no social media denial, no public acknowledgement at all. It was like the story didn't even exist. Online, everything rolled on like normal. Photos popped up from Egypt and Botswana. Promotions for a shiny new National Geographic travel series went live.
Because it's already a legal issue right now. But the reason why I'm speaking out about this is because getting fired or getting blamed or shamed or threatened or anything like that, simply for reporting sexual misconduct or safety threats at work, is not okay. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there who have been afraid to speak up, and I understand. And if that's you, I see you, and that's pretty much.
Late-night TV appearances aired without a hiccup. Birthday posts went up, smiles intact. To the public, it looked like straight business as usual. But behind that quiet front, things were already moving fast. Lawyers were activated. Strategy talks were happening behind closed doors.
Smith's attorney has released a statement. We can read it here. It says, Mr. Joseph's allegations concerning my client are false, baseless, and reckless. They are categorically denied, and we will use all legal means available to address these claims and to assure that the truth is brought to light.
This wasn't being ignored. It was being handled. The lawsuit, filed in California State Court, accuses Smith and a management company tied to his touring operation of retaliation after a reported safety incident. And here's the key part. This case is not centered on a public claim of sexual assault by Smith himself. Instead, the focus is on what allegedly happened after a report was made. The real question is whether the response crossed legal lines and violated California employment and civil rights laws.
Brian King Joseph alleges that while working on Will Smith's Based on a True Story tour, someone entered his hotel room without permission.
Court filings show that at least one defendant has already been formally served. That alone triggers deadlines, legal maneuvering, and serious behind-the-scenes planning. Whether Smith himself was personally served or his legal team accepted it on his behalf isn't publicly confirmed yet. But either way, this case is officially active and moving forward. From that moment on, every public move becomes deliberate. Every step gets weighed. Legal experts almost always tell high-profile defendants the same thing: stay quiet. Once a lawsuit is active, anything said outside the courtroom can be twisted, misread, or used later in ways no one intended. Silence might look shady to the public, but legally, it can be a shield. In this situation, Will Smith staying visible without addressing the lawsuit doesn't automatically signal arrogance or indifference. It may signal restraint, controlled exposure, a decision to let lawyers handle the talking instead. What makes this case stand out isn't just the celebrity name attached to it, it's how the claims are structured. The allegations don't revolve around a single explosive moment. Instead, they point to a chain of events: recruitment, professional dependence, a disturbing discovery, and then an abrupt termination that allegedly followed a report to management. The legal question now is whether those moments, taken together, form a pattern of retaliation under the law. And to understand how things reach this stage, you have to rewind further. Before the lawsuit, before the tour, even before the silence, you have to go back to a moment when a rising musician believed he had just been handed a career-changing opportunity. That musician was Brian King Joseph, and he wasn't some unknown name chasing a break. He was already an established professional violinist with a growing profile, known for blending classical skill with modern performance energy. His run as a finalist on a nationally televised talent competition expanded his audience and positioned him as a crossover artist, someone who could move seamlessly from concert halls to massive arena-scale stages. According to the lawsuit, everything started in late 2024. Brian King Joseph claims representatives connected to Will Smith reached out about a possible collaboration. It wasn't pitched as a contract or a tour deal. It was framed as an introduction, a chance to play privately, a foot in the door to explore future opportunities. And when that call comes from a global celebrity, it hits different. It signals access, credibility, momentum. Joseph says he was invited to Smith's home, where he performed violin pieces directly for him. Not an audition room, a private setting. Soon after, he was asked to appear at a live show in San Diego, and that appearance went forward. Social media from that time backs up the visibility. Posts show Joseph on stage, introduced to the crowd, playing in front of sold-out audiences. Captions describe the moment as surreal, the kind of breakthrough artists grind toward for years. From there, Joseph claims the relationship deepened fast. He says he was told he would be joining Smith's upcoming Based on a True Story tour in 2025. He was allegedly given more stage time, pulled into musical collaboration, made to feel like a trusted part of the creative direction. One comment repeated in the complaint stood out. Joseph says Smith told him they shared a special connection. And relying on those assurances, Joseph claims he made serious financial and professional commitments, moves he believed were building towards something much bigger. He bought new equipment, locked in medications, set his life up for months on the road. Touring at that level runs on trust. Trust that promises are real, that management has your back, and that the opportunity isn't smoke and mirrors. By early 2025, Brian King Joseph believed he had landed a spot on a massive international tour, the kind of move that can change everything. But according to the lawsuit, what came next flipped that dream into the core of a legal fight now sitting in court. What looked like momentum suddenly turned into uncertainty. As tour prep moved forward, the power dynamics became impossible to ignore. This wasn't a casual creative link-up between equals. The complaint says Joseph's role, travel, housing, and continued participation were all controlled by the touring operation tied to Will Smith. Decisions came from the top and flowed straight down. Access meant everything. Exposure meant income. Staying in good standing meant staying employed. Joseph alleges that over time, he was given more responsibility and more visibility. Extra stage time got added. He was pushed to integrate deeper into performances and recordings. Those signals, he claims, made it feel solid, like his spot was locked in, like his future depended on keeping trust with the people calling the shots. And that's where the lawsuit zooms out, describing a familiar pattern in high-profile disputes: informal promises, blurred lines, big reliance, but without hard contracts when work comes through personal relationships instead of formal agreements. In situations like this, the leverage usually sits with the employer. Walking away doesn't just mean losing a paycheck, it means losing momentum, exposure, and a shot that might never come back. By March 2025, Brian King Joseph officially joined the tour in Las Vegas, believing everything was locked in. Hotels were arranged by the touring operation, performer and crew accommodations were handled internally. According to the complaint, access to individual rooms was limited to staff and hotel personnel only. No random entry, no open access, no expectation that anyone else could come and go. Legally, what matters isn't just where Joseph was staying, it's why he was there. The lawsuit states he was acting fully within the scope of his job. Rehearsals, performances, travel, all part of his employment. And that distinction becomes critical once the situation shifts from professional frustration to alleged workplace safety concerns. Up to that point, Joseph says there were 0 red flags, no warnings, no complaints about his performance, no hints that the tour was changing direction. According to the filing, everything felt solid until one single night flipped the entire situation. What he claims to have discovered inside his hotel room would become the foundation for every allegation that followed. And the reason he says his career on the tour ended almost immediately afterward. The lawsuit pinpoints March 20th, 2025 as the turning point. When Joseph returned to his Las Vegas hotel room, something felt off right away. Items were out of place. The room didn't look how he left it. He didn't believe anyone else should have had access. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks. But the space no longer felt secure. And that moment, according to the complaint, changed everything tied to his involvement with the tour connected to Will Smith. What Brian King Joseph says he found inside the room is laid out clearly in the complaint. Among the items allegedly left behind was a handwritten note addressed to him by name. The note referenced a return time and included a heart symbol. That detail alone raised immediate alarms. According to the filing, there were other items as well: wipes, a beer bottle, a red backpack, a single earring, hospital discharge paperwork belonging to someone he did not know, and a bottle of prescribed medication labeled with another individual's name. None of it made sense. Joseph states he had no idea who the items belonged to, how they entered his room, or why a note suggesting private time had been left behind. The complaint says he feared someone planned to return. In that moment, he describes the situation as feeling threatening and deeply unsafe. To him, this wasn't confusion. It was a serious breach of personal and workplace security. He says he acted immediately. Hotel security was contacted right away. When security checked the room, Joseph was told there were no signs of forced entry from their assessment. That detail narrowed the possibilities and only heightened concern. Joseph documented everything with photographs. He requested a room change. He also contacted the non-emergency police line to formally report what had happened. Nothing was brushed aside. The lawsuit stresses that Joseph did not stay quiet or try to bury the issue. He followed proper channels. He reported what he believed was a serious safety concern. He also notified representatives connected to the tour tied to Will Smith, believing management needed to know that a performer's hotel room had been entered without consent. What happens next, Joseph says, is where everything shifts. This is the moment the situation allegedly moves from a disturbing incident into retaliation. The issue wasn't just who entered the room anymore. It was how his report was handled and how fast things changed afterward. According to Brian King Joseph, his standing on the tour flipped almost immediately after he spoke up. He says the response from management was nothing like what he expected. No investigation, no reassurance, no follow-up with hotel staff. Instead, he alleges the tone turned against him. The complaint states the focus moved away from safety and landed squarely on his credibility. Joseph claims he was informed that his participation in the tour was being terminated. No warning, no build-up, no explanation tied to performance or misconduct. When he pushed for answers, what he was told became central to the lawsuit. According to the filing, the tour manager, acting on behalf of the defendants, accused Joseph of fabricating the incident. He was allegedly told others believed nothing happened and that he had made the entire situation up. Not questioned, dismissed. Joseph says he was treated like the problem. He claims he tried to provide documentation, photos, timestamps, a clear timeline of events, but he maintains there was no real effort to verify his account. The lawsuit alleges management did not contact hotel security, did not request surveillance footage, did not independently investigate whether the room had been entered at all. According to Joseph, the decision to cut him loose came fast, and without checking the facts. And that response, he argues, is what turned a safety report into a legal battle now unfolding in court. Instead, Joseph says he was told the tour was moving in a different direction. And that explanation, he argues, doesn't hold up. According to the complaint, after he was terminated, another violinist was hired to step into the same role on the tour, same position, same function. That replacement, he claims, undercuts the idea that his spot was cut for creative or logistical reasons. To Brian King Joseph, that move signaled something else entirely. He contends it shows the justification he was given was pretextual, a cover story rather than the real reason. And legally, this is where the case really hits. Under California law, workers are protected when they report sexual harassment or unsafe conditions. Firing someone for making such a report can qualify as unlawful retaliation, even if the original incident is later disputed. Joseph alleges that by terminating him after he reported what he believed was an attempted sexual intrusion, the defendants violated those protections. He claims the firing wasn't neutral or procedural. It was punitive, a warning shot about what happens when someone speaks up. And according to the lawsuit, the fallout didn't stop with losing the tour. In the filing, Joseph lays out multiple legal claims meant to capture what he says followed. But at the center of it all is retaliation. He alleges he was fired because he reported a safety incident, one he reasonably believed involved sexual misconduct under California law. That report, Joseph argues, qualifies as protected activity under the law. And if that's proven, firing him for making it would directly violate public policy. The complaint also points to California's labor code, which strengthens protections for workers who report unsafe or unlawful conduct. According to Brian King Joseph, his termination wasn't a business move. It was a reaction to disruption. In his telling, the message was loud and clear. Reporting the incident made him expendable, not because of performance, but because he spoke up. The lawsuit goes further, invoking California civil rights statutes that don't get mentioned lightly. One of them is the Bain Act. That law allows claims when someone's rights are interfered with through threats, intimidation, or coercion. Joseph contends that how his report was handled, followed by termination and blame shifting, amounted to coercive conduct meant to silence him, not resolve the issue. Shut it down. Another claim falls under the Ralph Act, which protects individuals from violence or threats of violence motivated by sex or sexual orientation. Joseph is not alleging that physical violence occurred. Instead, he argues that the alleged intrusion into his hotel room, combined with the note and personal items, amounted to a sexually motivated threat. The complaint states the circumstances support an inference that sex or perceived sexual orientation played a role in how the situation unfolded. And on top of that, the lawsuit also includes a sexual harassment claim under California's Fair Employment and Housing laws. Joseph argues that employers can be held responsible not just for direct harassment, but for failing to act when harassment by others occurs during the course of employment. Because the hotel room was arranged by the tour and used while he was actively working, he claims the situation falls squarely within that legal scope. From there, the lawsuit shifts to the personal toll. Brian King Joseph alleges emotional distress, financial loss, reputational damage, and a serious decline in his mental health. After the termination, he claims the stress didn't fade. It intensified. According to the filing, the experience triggered lasting psychological effects, including symptoms consistent with post-traumatic stress. Taken together, these claims frame the case as something much bigger than one unidentified intruder. It becomes about power, silence, and punishment after a report was made. Once the lawsuit went public, the response from Will Smith's legal team came fast and firm. His attorney released a statement flatly denying the allegations. The claims were labeled false, baseless, reckless. The statement made one thing clear. Smith categorically rejected every accusation and intended to use all legal options available to fight them. But what stood out just as much was how the denial was delivered. There were no press conferences, no sit-down interviews, no point-by-point public rebuttals. The response stayed exactly where his legal team would want it, inside official statements and within the boundaries of the court system, not the court of public opinion. Inside the courtroom, from a pure litigation standpoint, that quiet approach limits risk. Every extra public comment creates exposure. Every word can be pulled apart later. That's why legal analysts reviewing the complaint keep circling one major issue: individual liability. The lawsuit doesn't just name a corporate entity tied to the tour, it also names Will Smith personally. And that matters. While most retaliation claims target the management structure, Smith's inclusion rests on circumstantial links, his leadership role, alleged comments attributed to him, and the argument that decisions made by subordinates ultimately flowed upward. In cases like this, defense strategy often starts with narrowing the battlefield. One common move is a motion to dismiss. That motion can argue the complaint doesn't clearly connect the alleged harm to Smith as an individual, only to the corporate employer. If that motion succeeds, Smith could be removed from the case before discovery even begins. And that distinction is huge. Discovery is where internal emails, private messages, and sworn testimony are forced into the open. Blocking the case from reaching that phase lowers both legal and reputational risk. Even if the corporate defendant stays in, shielding Smith personally would be a major win. Meanwhile, Smith's public life has rolled on without interruption. And from a strategy angle, that visibility isn't random. It can serve a purpose. Staying present reinforces normalcy, while the legal fight stays locked inside the courtroom. That visibility projects normalcy. It suggests confidence, and it avoids pouring oxygen on the allegations. In this context, silence isn't absence. It's containment, a controlled hold on the narrative. But whether that strategy holds depends entirely on what happens next. If the case survives early motions, the spotlight shifts fast. The focus moves away from legal theory and straight onto evidence. And that's where things stop being abstract and start getting real. What comes next won't be decided by headlines or social media takes. It'll be decided by procedure. The first real test arrives with defense motions. If the court decides the complaint doesn't clearly tie the alleged harm to Will Smith personally, his name could be removed from the case early. But even if that happens, the story doesn't automatically end. Claims against the corporate entity could still move forward if the lawsuit clears those initial hurdles. And if it does, everything changes. That's when the case enters discovery. Emails, contracts, internal messages, hotel records, sworn testimony, all of it becomes fair game. Discovery is where theories either get confirmed or fall apart. For defendants, this is where risk multiplies fast. Even without proven wrongdoing, this phase is where the line between legal outcomes and public perception starts to blur. Civil cases don't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt. They turn on credibility, timelines, and whether conduct crossed statutory protections. And once discovery begins, there's no controlling what comes out next. A case can be legally weak yet reputationally explosive, or legally strong and barely noticed by the public at all. And that tension sits right at the center of this lawsuit. At its core, this case is not asking a judge to decide whether Will Smith committed a sexual assault. Instead, it asks something narrower and harder to brush aside. Was a worker punished for reporting something he reasonably believed was dangerous and sexually threatening? That framing is exactly why the case is so difficult to categorize and why it's harder to dismiss outright. For Brian King Joseph, the outcome determines whether his termination is seen as lawful or retaliatory. For Smith, the stakes stretch far beyond the courtroom. Even a legal win can't fully stop scrutiny once allegations go public. That reality explains the restraint, the silence, the careful posture taken so far, waiting for a judge's ruling or a negotiated resolution. Right now, the case hangs in limbo, suspended between accusation and proof. What is certain is this: the next major developments won't come from social media posts or interviews. They'll come quietly, through filings added to a court docket, where careers, credibility, and consequences are actually decided. So, what do you think? Was this retaliation for speaking up, or a misunderstanding that spiraled because of power and perception? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives like this, stories that go beyond headlines and into what really changes careers, subscribe to JuicyReel now so you don't miss what's coming next. This is getting ugly fast. Kanye West is spiraling after alleged messages connected to North's phone hit the internet, and people are shook because the situation feels deeply wrong. Not because of what's proven, but because of what it suggests about boundaries, supervision, and who really has access to a child in the spotlight. Reports claim Kanye saw something that set him off completely, and now fans are asking uncomfortable questions, not about gossip, but about protection, about whether fame blurs lines that should never be touched. When a kid grows up surrounded by adults, money, and influence, the risks change fast. Suddenly, Kanye's past warnings about Hollywood, control, and keeping his kids close don't sound like random rants anymore. The custody tension, the constant public exposure, and the Kardashian brand machine all collide here. If something slipped through the cracks, even briefly, that's not drama, that's a serious red flag. Let's be clear, there are no confirmed crimes, and no one should jump to wild conclusions. But the panic, the fear, that part feels real. Kanye isn't crashing out for attention, he's reacting like a parent who thinks something is off. And when a father starts sounding alarms this loudly, people need to stop laughing and start listening. According to insiders close to the situation, Kanye reportedly came across messages on North's phone during one of his visits, and whatever he saw pushed him over the edge. That reaction didn't come out of nowhere. This is his daughter, and when something feels off, a protective parent is going to explode first and ask questions later. What really set people off is how something like this could even slip past supervision. Not because of confirmed wrongdoing, but because it raises serious concerns about oversight, access, and boundaries. North is growing up inside one of the most powerful families in entertainment, surrounded by adults, business deals, and non-stop exposure. If fame alone was enough to keep kids safe, Hollywood wouldn't have such a dark track record. From Kanye's point of view, the fear looks real. He's been vocal for years about not trusting the industry around children, and now his panic feels amplified. Not proven facts, but instinct-driven alarm bells. And when a parent hits that level of concern, it's hard to just brush it off. Things get even messier when Kanye points to past decisions, including business moves involving the kids' names that he claims he wasn't fully included in. To him, that signals control, branding, and long-term plans he doesn't trust. Whatever the full truth is, Kanye's reaction isn't about clout. It's about fear of history repeating itself in an industry that doesn't protect innocence very well. Kanye didn't hold back when he talked about control over his kids' identities. He framed it as a bigger issue of power, saying a system was in place where he felt sidelined from decisions about his own children's names and likenesses. To him, that wasn't paperwork, that was leverage, and it hit a nerve fast. In the private texts between him and Kim, it becomes clear there was some awareness, but not the full picture. Kim pushed back hard, saying, "I asked you at the time if I could trademark her name. You said yes. When she's 18, it goes to her, so stop." She also explained that trademarking was meant to block outside parties, adding, "To protect her, one person has to trademark." From her side, it was about control for safety, not profit. Kanye's response was explosive and emotional. "Amended or I'm going to war and neither of us will recover from the public fallout," he warned, before escalating even further. At the time, many people backed Kim, arguing that Kanye's reactions felt extreme and unpredictable. But then the narrative started to shift. Fans began questioning whether decisions were being made that slowly pushed Kanye out of the picture. Rumors swirled about name changes and branding moves, all framed as parenting choices, but viewed by critics as strategic positioning. To be fair, co-parenting with Kanye is no easy task. Still, insiders claim these moves weren't about chaos or convenience, but about control. No confirmed proof, just growing suspicion. And once trust breaks at that level, every move gets questioned. Fans are zeroing in on the custody angle now, and that's where things start feeling serious. The concern isn't drama, it's power. If Kim were to gain expanded legal control, critics argue it would give her final say over major decisions, while Kanye's voice gets quieter and quieter. That fear alone is enough to keep people on edge. At the same time, some fans aren't fully buying the narrative that Kanye is an uninvolved parent. Their logic is simple. If Kanye was the one who reportedly noticed something questionable while Kim didn't, that raises eyebrows. Not proof of anything, but it complicates the picture she's been painting. It makes people wonder whether this is neglect or a fight over who controls the story. Then there's a darker theory floating around online, and it's strictly speculation. Some believe Kim may have been aware of controversial situations earlier than she's admitted. No confirmation, no evidence, just fans connecting dots based on past family controversies and long-standing criticism of how fame is handled in that circle. Those theories pull from old accusations that have followed the Kardashian brand for years, especially claims about how fame, image, and controversy were leveraged early on. That conversation reignited when Ray J publicly shared his side of the story about the infamous tape years ago. Ray J wrote, "I've sat in the shadows for over 14 years, allowing the Kardashians to use my name, make billions of dollars over a decade and a half, talking about a topic I've never really spoken about." He went on to say, "I've never leaked anything. It was never a leak. It was a deal and a partnership between Kris Jenner, Kim, and me." He even claimed multiple recordings existed and alleged that Kris reviewed them to decide which would create the biggest impact. These are his words, his claims, and they remain disputed. Still, when old controversies resurface during new family conflicts, they don't disappear quietly. They explode back into the spotlight. The idea of a parent reviewing scandal-driven material involving their own child has always disturbed critics, and that reaction hasn't changed. To many people, it feels unsettling on a moral level, even when framed as business or image management. That discomfort is exactly why these old stories keep resurfacing every time the family lands in controversy. According to long-circulating allegations, this wasn't the only moment that raised eyebrows. Over the years, rumors have followed the family suggesting that Kim was pushed into adult environments far earlier than most people would consider normal. These claims remain unproven, but they've been repeated often enough to become part of the public narrative surrounding fame and control. One story frequently cited by critics involves Kim traveling with wealthy associates during high-profile trips. In 2009, Kim herself mentioned returning from Las Vegas with a large sum of casino winnings, which fueled online speculation. Later revelations about financial crimes tied to people in those circles only added to the suspicion, even though no direct wrongdoing by Kim was ever established. The conversation didn't stop with Kim. Fans have also pointed to past controversies involving other family members and questioned whether fame blurred appropriate boundaries. These moments were always denied or reframed by the family, but they linger in public memory because of the ages involved and the power imbalance critics believe existed. One example often debated online involves Kylie and an older celebrity relationship that made many fans uncomfortable at the time. Kris publicly shut down those rumors, saying Kylie wasn't dating anyone and describing the group as longtime friends who traveled together. Officially, that was the end of it. Still, when you stack all these moments together, critics argue they paint a pattern. No confirmed crimes, no proven exploitation, just a long trail of decisions that fans continue to question. And once trust cracks in the public eye, even old denials don't fully quiet the noise. The official story back then was simple. Everyone was just close friends, living nearby, hanging out as a group, nothing strange going on. But fans weren't buying it. When Kylie was allowed to travel internationally with an older celebrity while still underage, eyebrows went up fast, especially after comments were made that many felt crossed a clear line. A lot of people felt that moment should have stopped everything in its tracks. Someone should have stepped in, set boundaries, and shut it down immediately. Instead, fans believe the situation was brushed off as normal, even though it made plenty of people uncomfortable. That silence is exactly why critics still bring it up today. This history is why some fans now question whether warning signs get ignored in that family. Not confirmed facts, not accusations, but patterns people feel they've seen before. In their minds, that's why rumors about messages involving North sparked panic. The fear isn't just about one incident. It's about a lifestyle critics believe normalizes adult environments around kids. What makes this even heavier is that Kanye has been warning about this exact issue for years. Back in 2022, he publicly said, "You don't have say-so over my children and where they go to school." He also made it clear he would never allow them to be involved in adult-centered branding or media. Kanye went even harder, saying, "Don't let Kris make you do Playboy like she made Kylie and Kim." He described Hollywood as an environment that damages families and claimed social media platforms amplify that harm. He added that he would never let that happen to North or Chicago. He finished with a blunt message that still gets replayed today. "Anybody that says I'm spiraling when I'm expressing what I believe is the truth is just ignoring the problem." To Kanye, this wasn't a meltdown. It was a warning. And now, with everything resurfacing, fans are asking whether he saw something long before the rest of the world was ready to listen. And this is where the public really split down the middle. On one side, people say Kanye is reckless, unstable, and impossible to co-parent with. On the other, fans argue that messy delivery doesn't automatically mean a fake message. Sometimes the loudest warnings come from people who feel ignored for too long. What keeps nagging at people is that Kanye's fears didn't come out of nowhere. He didn't suddenly wake up paranoid. These concerns have been bubbling for years, long before custody fights and public meltdowns. When someone keeps repeating the same fear over and over, eventually people start wondering if there's smoke for a reason. Fans also point out that Kanye has always drawn a hard line when it comes to his kids. He doesn't want them turned into brands before they can even understand consent. He doesn't want them growing up in adult spaces disguised as family events. To him, fame isn't protection, it's exposure. Meanwhile, critics of the Kardashian system say everything eventually becomes content, leverage, or strategy. Photos, appearances, names, narratives, all monetized. And when kids are born into that machine, fans worry where the line actually gets drawn. This is why the rumors around messages, supervision, and boundaries caused such a strong reaction online. Not because people want to believe something dark, but because they've watched too many warning stories end badly. Hollywood doesn't have a clean track record when it comes to protecting children. So now the question hanging in the air isn't who's right or wrong. It's whether the system around these kids prioritizes safety over optics, whether adults step in early or wait until damage is already done. And if Kanye really believes history is repeating itself, then from his perspective, staying quiet was never an option. He may be chaotic, emotional, and loud, but in his mind, silence is how people get hurt. What really has people locked in now is the silence from the other side. No clear explanations, no firm shutdown, just vague statements and business as usual energy. And in a situation this sensitive, silence doesn't calm people down. It does the opposite. It leaves room for speculation to spiral. Fans keep pointing out that if everything is fine, why not overcorrect on safety and transparency? Why not show stricter boundaries, more supervision, more protection? When kids are involved, especially famous kids, people expect extra caution, not less. Another thing that keeps coming up is how early these children are exposed to public platforms. Cameras, social media, fashion events, brand deals, all before they can fully understand what that exposure means. Critics argue that once a child becomes content, it's hard to separate protection from promotion. From Kanye's perspective, this feels like a repeat of everything he's been warning about. He's said over and over that Hollywood doesn't care about innocence, only attention. And when attention turns into currency, kids become assets whether people admit it or not. Supporters say this is why Kanye reacts the way he does. He doesn't trust quiet negotiations behind closed doors. He believes pressure is the only language the system understands. That's why he goes public, even when it makes him look unstable. Others say his approach hurts his case, that his outbursts make it easier to dismiss him instead of addressing the concern itself. And that's the real tragedy here, when the messenger becomes so controversial that the message gets ignored. At the center of all this are children who didn't choose fame, brands, or headlines. They didn't ask to be part of a global spotlight or a family feud played out online. And that's why this story refuses to die down, because whether you believe Kanye or not, people are starting to ask the same uncomfortable question. Are these kids being protected first or managed first? And until that question gets a clear answer, this situation isn't cooling off anytime soon. Kanye once said, "I'm dealing with wars at the highest level of control." And whether people believed him or not, that statement hits different now. He's talked openly about power, exploitation, and systems that profit off image, while pretending it's freedom. When he says even adults feel uncomfortable with how things are displayed, that's when this stops sounding like celebrity noise and starts feeling unsettling. Because if Kanye has been shouting about these fears for years, and now rumors start lining up with the same concerns, it forces people to pause. Maybe this was never about ego or control. Maybe it was about instinct. A father sensing something off and reacting the only way he knows how, loudly, publicly, and without filters. What makes this uncomfortable isn't proof or receipts. It's the pattern, the timing, the history, and the fact that whenever Kanye raises alarms, the focus shifts to how he says it, not what he's saying. So, now the real question isn't whether Kanye is messy. We already know he is. The question is whether his chaos distracted everyone from a warning that should have been taken seriously a long time ago. If you're watching this unfold and feeling uneasy, you're not alone. This story isn't done, and neither is the conversation. Subscribe to JuicyReel for deep dives into the stories everyone else is afraid to touch, because when the truth gets uncomfortable, that's when it matters most.
Are you concerned that Sean Diddy Combs could be sexually assaulted, violently assaulted? Is that a thing? Because based on what was said in court, it feels like a thing.
Yeah, it clearly is a thing. I mean, they're already, and he did not want to make a big deal of it. They already tried to shank him once at the MDC, and that was thwarted. And it happens in prison. I mean, you and I could tick off how many times we are aware of somebody getting seriously injured or killed in prison. And so they're going to have to keep him somewhere that they can keep an eye on him. It would have obviously been better if he had gotten less time and had been at a camp, but he's going to be in a facility where somebody's going to have to, from the BOP, and I think they're well equipped to do it if they can, to keep an eye on him because he is a target.
Diddy's lawyer, Mark Garagos, didn't sugarcoat a thing. He flat out admitted Diddy is already viewed as a walking target behind bars. There was even a real moment when someone allegedly tried to come at him with a weapon while he was locked up at the MDC. It didn't work, but the message landed hard. Someone tried, and once that line gets crossed, everything shifts fast.
I don't know if anybody's paying attention to the fact that almost every Diddy documentary that's out, he's in it.
He is. He wasn't in this one though.
Huh? Oh no, he was in this one.
Oh, he was. You're correct. You are correct. He was.
Was in this one. He was sitting there smiling with a shit-eating grin, while Diddy is sitting there telling him that he is the gold standard of Black excellence and how he's writing the price point for our people. He's just so happy to be there and listen to this demon run his face when he knows exactly what's going on. And it's really wild because I was listening not long, actually during the trial.